One of the biggest things is what I went through coming up. Coming up in this business, nobody reached out. I was a drug dealer, came from prison. I reached out to several comedians. It even got to a point where one comedian I was about to knock out. Coming up in this business, nobody reached out. I was a drug dealer, came from prison. I reached out to several comedians. Hey, I'm a new comedian, just one shot. They turned their back on me. It even got to a point where one comedian I was about to knock out simply because my mentality was still prison.
Or do you want to mention that for the story context?
Say that again?
Can you mention who you're talking about?
All right, Gerald Kelly.
Okay.
Gerald Kelly, which we became very good friends back then. I'll never forget the first time I approached him and I approached talent. And I said, hey guys, I'm a new comedian and I want to get in and, can y'all show me the ropes? Talent was honest with me. He had Rudy Rush under his wing, and he said, I don't really deal with new comedians. Rob Stapleton, who was like the guy in New York, he was like, I don't really deal with new comedians. And I really looked up to Gerald because Gerald had a different type of comedy that I really liked. And when I approached him, it was something totally different. It was like, like making fun of me. This cat been doing comedy for one day and he already want to know the ropes and this and that. And I didn't know how to take that.
They say that, like, we interviewed Aries and he talked about meeting your idols, if you will, people that said that's the worst thing.
Yeah, exactly. And we became friends later on. But what became because I was unstoppable. Yeah. Those guys made me who I am out of anger because I had to show, all right, y'all don't want to help me, I'll show you a different way. I hosted this thing called Bronx BBQs. Bronx BBQs was the most successful comedy club in the Bronx because it had people from all over that would stand in line for hours just to get into that show. And it was a small restaurant and it solidified who I was as a comedian to go and the same guys that kind of turned their backs on me, now they needed me for jobs.
Yeah. That's how the story always sometimes plays out.
I mean, there's no love lost. It taught me who I am. I'm friends with most of the guys.
So after Gerald, someone that you looked up to.
Right.
Clowned you in front of what, like a crowd of people?
Yeah, we were in Co-op City. I'll never forget that, as long as I live.
And blood is boiling or like you?
No, it got to a point where they had to hold me back. I was like, I'm going to knock this mother out. Like that. That was it. And there was a guy named Rob Bradley who was the promoter, and he was the one who tried to calm me down because he put the whole show together. And he knew I wasn't mentally stable in this type of arena. Coming from killers and all of that type of stuff. And so for me, it was blatant disrespect. Yeah. And I was not too happy with that.
Did you guys ever get to talk about it?
We talked about it and laughed about it later. I mean, he was one of the New York Kings. So we became good friends and, it was what it was. But, moving on from that, that was one of the points that it actually showed me. So back to the story of, I see what these guys go through. I know that the guys that make fun, the hate that comes with it. And so I vowed that if I ever became successful and there's just something that I can do to help them, that I would help them open doors. These guys that this is not the first group. I've had like 5 to 6 groups to where I remember getting a whole group of people on Comedy Central Comic View. Just a whole group when one of the producers was like, nah, these guys ain't nothing. They was never heard of. But I got all of them a shot on there. And it's just to the point to where you have to utilize what you have. You don't know what position this guy is going to be in 10 years or a year from now. I might need him, and he might be executive producer of a movie or whatever the situation is. So I believe in helping somebody get their foot in the door and becoming successful, and you never know what type of favor you need. I believe in building relationships.